Hi, this is George for the Prairie State Network. Today's episode, we've got Patrick Harlan. He's our candidate for District 36 State Senate in Illinois. Patrick, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, George. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing, why you're running, a little bit about your district?
Yes. The reason why I'm running, first off, I am Patrick Harlan. I'm from Galesburg, Illinois. The reason why I jumped into this race that got me so fired up was the Safety Act, which I've labeled the Halpin crime bill, also known as the Unsafety Act. That's what really got me fired up. And then, of course, going to the grocery store, the gas station, everything costs so much money around here. My property tax bill showing up, my power bill coming to the mail is so much more higher than what it used to be. So just we're taxed to death. We're unsafe. The education system is failing us. And so I'm just tired of seeing all the failures. It's time for some blue collar, common sense ideas to come down to Springfield. And that's what I am. I'm a blue collar guy. I drive a truck for a living. And so it's, this isn't rocket science, guys. Politics isn't really that hard. It's about live and let live, get out of the way. And the people know how to really serve themselves best and stop taxing everybody to death and make ourselves, all your really job as a legislator to do is just kind of, hey, let's make sure our roads are working. We have good, clean water. We have just focus on what really needs to be done and just stay out of the way of everybody else.
That sounds great. It sounds like something we don't really do here too much in Illinois as far as our legislators go.
Yes.
So we've got you're a truck driver. My father was a truck driver. He made a great living out of it. Let's talk a little bit about education. Right now, I know even when my kids have their own kids now, but even when my kids were young, it was always the focus was on college. Focus on college. You got to go to college. There's some great jobs and careers out there that don't require college. I'm a nurse, so I started out with a 2-year degree, even so I didn't even have like a bachelor's at that point. What are your thoughts about the way the education system is running here in Illinois, and how can we get basically the word out that you can make a good living without having to go in debt $100,000?
Oh, sure, yeah. And and I'll touch on education because it's not that I'm against education, and it's not that I'm against college, right? So my son, he's a lawyer. He went to school. He went to all the 8 years he has to go to. So he's a practicing attorney. Both my daughters are in education. My daughter's a school teacher. And so I respect education when it's done properly, right? But right. I also know that there's also an opportunity out there for folks in the blue collar, the trades. There's so much money to be had in, being an electrician, a plumber, a truck driver. Me, fortunately for myself, I started having kids young, of course. So, I didn't have the opportunity to go on to college. And so I started straight into the blue collar field. And I've raised my family. My wife's been a stay-at-home mom for 27 years. We've had all of our children. They all went to private school, K-8. I was able to do that because I worked hard, the blue-collar lifestyle. I made really good money to be able to provide for my family, a comfortable lifestyle for my family.
Sure.
And I think what we need to do is we need to focus more on the trades, right? So whenever we are in education, we need to focus more on STEM. Let these kids learn with their hands instead of being told what to learn. They get to learn on and kind of adapt what skills do you really want to focus on and get that person successful in that line of nature instead of this indoctrination of where you have to do this, you have to go to college. And realistically, look, $50,000 or $40,000 a year for college tuition, which is what we was paying, $40,000 a year for college tuition for the kids. That's not realistic. These kids are coming out of college and they're debt ridden, and most of them are coming back home to their parents' houses because, like my daughter being a school teacher, she's coming out, she's making $42,000 a year. You have $100,000 in debt. Yeah, how are you going to pay your student loan debt? With that kind of money, you're never going to get out of debt with that. So we need to focus more on really lifting up our trades, encouraging these kids that there's great opportunities out there, and you don't have to go to college to be successful. Because look, realistically in Illinois, we have so much opportunity in Illinois to where we can really, especially in our infrastructure, we need to bring our manufacturing back, make it strong again. Galesburg, Illinois is a prime example. We were a booming town at one time, right? We had a lot of factories here. We had manufacturing going on. We pushed all that out. But, we have the rail here. So we got the railroad. We've got the interstate system. We have a prime location to really build this up and really start booming again. But we just need to cut the red tape. And that's something where going from education and to being less regulation from the legislator side of things to where we can start succeeding again.
What kind of regulation would you target to get rid of? So what specifically you think could really stimulate not just your area, but the whole state if we were to cut some of that red tape out?
Well, I'm going to have to say it's going to come down to you're not really business friendly. So our tax rates are so high for businesses. So who would want to be able to build or who can build right now? That's what I've been talking to a lot of these businesses, business owners about. Like, they don't want to build. They don't want to do this because they were not business friendly. So number one, I think we need to focus on the tax rates. And there's also kind of silly standards as far as you got to have a water collecting pond for what the runoff is. And that changes from place to place.
Yeah.
And it also determines on who your city manager is on what that standard really is. So the politics even comes all the way back to the local level. If we can just have a standard saying, okay, this is what the situation is. This is how we can get moving again. But unfortunately, it's not played like that. It's about who you know. It's about how much money, and that's really how it's working right now. We need to stop that type of stuff. Just have a standard, a procedure all the way across the board.
Well, I think that's a good point right there. We have a lot of career politicians in the state house. These guys are making $80,000 a year for a part-time job. They have no impetus to to change anything, because if any changes may mean they don't get reelected, and then that extra $80,000 gift from the state of Illinois doesn't come rolling along. So that was a good point, I think. What about infrastructure? You mentioned that earlier too. So we've got a crumbling infrastructure is probably selling it not selling it hard enough. What are your thoughts about how we pay for that, and what should be our priority and what we're fixing here in Illinois?
Well, I understand, we have the gas tax is supposed to go toward our roads. The lottery tax is supposed to go toward education. They're constantly taxing all these things, but I've had conversations before with previous state senators who even said, as far as even getting our roads fixed back up, you put too much water inside of your concrete, it's causing the roads to crumble again. Let's look at how we're building these roads. I don't think we're spending enough time. And I think what it is like we're over budget on a lot of things. I have the opportunity to talk to engineers. My son-in-law is an engineer. And so, just listening to what the time frame on how long they stretch these jobs out, when you can see a private contractor put a bridge in a matter of 6 weeks, when we have our state contractors doing it in 3 years, we need to look and see, okay, what's the real situation going on here? And I think it comes down to, job security for state workers, which nothing against state workers. They got to get paid too. But at the end of the day, it's tax dollars. How are we going to be able to? So let's prevent and say, okay, what's the best way to build a road? I see up in Joliet right now, they're actually adding a rubber base to their roads they're putting down. That's going to make them last a heck of a lot longer. We need to start investing in more so along that line. That's just talking about just your roads in general, but we also have infrastructure we didn't talk about for a long time. Our wastewater treatment plants, we haven't invested in those. Like Galesburg just recently, I know it's a federal side, we just recently started getting rid of the lead lines going into people's homes. That should have been addressed a long time ago. Those stuff like that where we don't have a revenue problem as opposed to people paying their taxes. It's the way that they're spending on these pet projects and really pumping up everything else. When you have $2.5 billion going to illegal health care rather than $2.5 billion going back into your system of the state of Illinois to make it thrive again, you're looking to continue to fail.
Well, that $2.5 billion, I think, is going to be a winner of an issue for Republicans across the state today, because the current state government, Governor Pritzker and all his cronies are crying they're broke. We got to raise taxes. We got to do this. But here we are. We're just handing out $2.5 billion to people that really aren't even supposed to be here.
Correct. And in the meantime, we have our own people, like I know people locally here who don't have proper health care. They don't have proper housing. We have a homeless crisis. We could address all these types of things. The mental health crisis, we could actually look at these things. Like Chris Welch is a prime example. He gets $40 million to put an athletic complex in where he used to be a school board member at, when $43 million could have actually went back here to help the mental health crisis. That's what it was in the budget. They swept it out. They gave it to Chris. Yeah. Those are things that's ridiculous. Let's just, again, common sense.
That's refreshing to hear too. Again, because it's not something that's there's a lot of in Springfield right now. There is unfortunately a lot of the spending, like we were just talking about. I think if we could get some good Republicans in there like yourself that can analyze this stuff, take a look at it, and say, what are we doing here? What is as they say, $1 billion here and there, it adds up, right?
You ain't kidding.
We can fix a lot with that money. What would if you could pick 3 pet projects to fund with some of this cutting, the 3 most important things we need to fix in Illinois, what would you say those are?
And the funding aspect of things? Yeah. I would say I would want to address the mental health crisis that we're currently dealing with. I would want to address our infrastructure big time to be able to get our infrastructure booming again. And probably the third thing, this is kind of an unpopular topic, because it's one of those things where being a Republican, and you should really talk about but the homeless crisis, right? I think we need to address, why are these people on the streets? And that might fall into mental health, but there's got to be some way we can address this, because you can't tell me all of a sudden we don't have enough housing. We were losing population. We've lost population, so we've lost the congressional seats. But we don't have enough houses. This doesn't make any sense. So we need to be able to, invest in something where we can get so many people off the streets and give them opportunities to get back to work again. So, again, that's going to go back to infrastructure, mental health, and your homeless crisis. I think those are the three things.
You tied them all together real neatly too, because the unfortunate fact is most of the people who are homeless are having some mental health issues that maybe that caused the homelessness, maybe it's caused by the homelessness, but the issues are there and they are real, and they are unfunded. I was going to say underfunded, but really at this point they're unfunded. There's no one cares. It's something that be swept under the carpet, and we can ignore it. In polite society, you can just say there's no problem.
Yes.
And that goes in with medical stuff. It goes in with everything. I can even remember going back to when I was younger. I'm in my late 50s now, but the big mental health center in Elgin was cut to shreds. There's nowhere to help these people because I'm a nurse when I'm not doing this, and I've seen what it takes to place someone that needs mental inpatient care, and it's almost impossible. You can't go across state lines, for example. So if someone from Lake Geneva needs a bed, they can't come to Illinois for that bed if we have one, and vice versa. There's just a lot of red tape in this that's not conducive to helping the actual patients. And so they get released, and then something bad happens to themselves or to someone else. Yes. And I think you're absolutely right. That is something that needs to be taken seriously and corrected.
Yes, absolutely. And that's in regard to the funding side thing. But I mean, on top of funding stuff, though, we got to figure out how can we start to reduce our property taxes, right? So it's like, if we can have the funding to fix these problems, we can start bringing back bringing our property tax issue. That's another story. But now we're using our jails as mental health facilities. Yeah. That's not the place they should be at either, because that's putting a lot of stress on our jails as well. Granted, we have the safety acts, everybody's getting out and walking away, but those who are having a mental health crisis are sitting in the jails. That's not where they belong. Here locally,
and I don't think they're the ones getting out of the safety act either.
That's exactly right. So it's like the whole system is just broken. And it's like, again, it comes down to common sense. We got to address these issues. I think most folks, and the reason why I think this is because I've actually experienced it. I know people that have done this. You give them an opportunity to work. Now, not everybody. Some of them just don't want to. But if you do give them, make them have dignity. Make them like humanity, like you are important. Take the time and give them up off their feet and give them an opportunity to succeed. Typically, majority of folks will. It's because they need the right medication. It gets them back on the right track to start thinking again. Give them humanity. Hey, you're loved. Somebody cares about you. We can focus on that and get them back into society. And there's a lot of times you can flip these people around. But yeah, we've shut down all of our mental health facilities. Yeah. Galesburg, Illinois, Cottage Hospital, we had a great one here. And now there's nowhere for anybody around here to go. And we have over, I think, 132 homeless people in the city of Galesburg. And that's a lot of people for this small of a town.
That is a lot, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do we address this? Okay, so that's the things I'm really passionate about, here locally in this community.
Let's move on to something else. Let's talk about the Second Amendment a little bit. Sure. So we've got this recent law here in Illinois. It should be going in front of state, or not in front of state, but in front of the Supreme Court hopefully soon. What's your view on the Second Amendment and how?
So I'm a strong void the void guy. I don't believe that there should be a void card. I believe it's our constitutional right. Shall not infringe means exactly that. Shall not infringe. It's not up to the government to decide who's allowed to have a gun or have firearm. That was given to us in our Constitution. So they're violating our Constitution. When there comes down to times when it's like, hey, this guy's a criminal, whatever. He's been known to run drugs and guns and everything else. Then, you kind of have your rights taken away. But outside of that, I don't think that we have to get approval to have our rights, and whatever gun you want to have. That's your right to have that gun. If they always want to go back to, the founding fathers didn't have machine guns. Well, it doesn't matter what it was at that time. That's what they had. And it's just the way it works out. So no, I'm a strong Second Amendment guy. I'm a strong constitutional carry, shall not infringe. That's what I stand by. Yes.
That's great to hear too. We've got this, the Democrats now have run they ran that law through. You can't even buy magazines in the state anymore. You can't.
Yes.
You can't have a rifle. I mean, these made up terms like assault rifle.
Mm-hmm.
They're scary, and we need to get more common sense back in the state house on that issue too. And we wouldn't be spending all this. There's some more money we're spending too. We don't need to. We're spending all this money to defend illegal laws that the General Assembly has spent.
Well, that's a prime example. Just real quick, I want to hit on this one because HB 2827 was a school choice bill, right? I mean, so that didn't pass, thankfully. But what that little gray area was, and that people don't realize, whenever you have a school zone, you can't have guns in a school zone. So if your home is considered a school, now they're trying to find any way they can to get to your guns. One way or another, they're going to come for our right to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government. That's the only thing that's keeping us safe, George. You know that. I know that.
Yeah,
we all know that.
absolutely.
That's the only reason why we have the right that we have is because we can defend ourselves. You know, and Illinois is trying to go down the wrong path. They're on the wrong side of the issue. And I pray that the Supreme Court rules on the right side of the Constitution on this.
They've been pretty good so far, so hopefully they do too. You brought up a good point too about the homeschooling and declaring a home school zone. You're right. I think that was the fallback plan. I think they know they're going to lose this in the Supreme Court, and we'll be right back in 2 years with some kind of weird take on what a school zone is. That's very insightful. So we've got this pension problem in Illinois too, right? What's your thoughts on that? How are we going to fix the pension problem? Because you're a blue collar worker too. You don't get it like my father got a Teamsters pension, right? So he had an actual pension. Now it's all 401ks and everything. But yeah, we still have the huge pension debt from before that. Yes. How do you think we should fix that?
Well, it's a $180 billion unfunded pension liability. We can't take away what we promised. You know, so we can't stop that. We have to allow those guys to have what they're allowed to have. We do have to bring in the 401ks into that situation to where they can start investing in themselves, and the state does need to fund up what they're saying they're supposed to fund up. You know, but in the meantime, how are we going to fix it? The only way you're going to be able to fix that issue is we're going to be more business friendly to start getting tax revenue coming back into our state. And if people are fleeing here, that puts the brunt of the taxes on all of us, on all of our backs, trying to cover up the rest of that debt. Because look, I mean, anybody with common sense, when you retire and you have a great pension, you're not going to stay in Illinois. Your pension goes with you. You know what I'm saying? Right. So you're going to retire in Florida or Tennessee or any place else you want to go where they're more tax friendly, where you can actually have a great life with the beautiful weather and more opportunities. So the only way I think we're going to have to do this is we're going to have to really start looking and saying, okay, guys, we're going to the 401k plan. You know, we will put in 5%, just whatever number. Like I get matched 5%. I put in 5. My company puts in 5. You know, we could do something along that line, but we have to stick to something where we can get out of this. I don't have a magic wand, but I do know. Right. I was talking to another state representative, and he says anybody who tells you that they can stop taxes today is a liar. Because it's going to take 10 years for us to be able to even get from 50th to probably 37th in the state of Illinois. We're going to have to continue the taxing the way that we currently are just to try to get out of debt. We can't take on any more debt. We can't have a $55 billion budget. You know, we can't keep on having all these pet projects. But I mean, realistically, somebody with a lot more knowledge than myself, and I believe in guys like Lee Arano, State Senator Lee Arano. I think he's a really good fiscal hawk. You know, I think he really understands the pension, how to really address these types of things. And so I would lean on people a lot more intelligent than I am on how to fix that. Because I mean, they've got themselves into a mess. Yeah, I don't have an answer on how to get out of it. I just know that what works for private companies is they went to 401ks for a reason, because there's just no pensions. You're not going anywhere for a pension anymore unless you get to like the local 649 or something like that. There's still something out there for that situation, but they were a lot smarter with their investments than what the state was. So I have, you know, again, that's where I'm at on that situation.
So right now, District 36 senator is Michael Halpin. So what do you think, what are the major differences between, you know, the red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat, we all get that. But what else separates you from Halpin?
Well, I believe that, you know, Halpin has been in politics a very long time. He started with Lane Evans, and of course, he's always kind of been in the political circle. So whenever I'm going to vote more so for the 36th district. I'm not going to vote for what the CTA wants or what other locations want. I mean, I'm making the 36th district first, you know, and so he's also about, you know, the crime situations. He's pro-choice. He's kind of anti-police. You know, I have a friend of mine who is a canine officer who was concerned about losing his dogs because he's going to make it to where the dogs that can smell with marijuana are no longer allowed to sniff a car. And Mike Halpin was like, well, you know, you can just buy a new dog for $3,000. That's not true. Them dogs cost about $15,000.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot. The main differences I think between Mike and I is that, I come in with common sense. He comes in with more of a, I think he's probably a great attorney. That's what he does for a living. He's an attorney for AFSCME, you know, so he kind of has a a vested interest on not wanting to lower taxes ever, you know, when you're representing a client that is looking for taxes and you're in Springfield. So you're not going to get that with me. And when it comes down to just the common sense values, the conservative values, Michael Halpin, he's not going to do that. He's a whip vote. So if he doesn't want to vote for something, he brings in his other 4 cronies to be able to vote for whatever he wants to get done. Yeah. So you're not going to see that. So I think that's your main difference is the fact that I'm not a career politician. I don't have, you know, these big, I guess, vested interests from like the public sector unions, you know, buying me out. You know, I'm a pro-life guy. I am just a common sense Midwestern conservative values guy. You're not going to get that from him, you know. And again, I'm focused on the 36th district first.
Let's talk about some of those cronies down there in Springfield for a second. You're not seeming like the kind of guy that's going to play, you know, get along to, what's the expression? Go along to get along. Yeah, it seems like you're in there to shake things up.
Yes.
How are you gonna get along with those guys? What's your goal, and where is there room for compromise, and what are the things you absolutely cannot compromise on?
Well, I think everybody wants their kids to be safe. Everybody wants more money in their pocket, and everybody wants to be able to, you know. So you want strong education, you want a safe community, and you want more money in your pocket. Those are 3 things that I think Democrats and Republicans can both agree upon. We may have a different way of getting there, but I think we can all agree upon that. I'm willing to compromise on a few things there to make sure that we can all agree on those 3 things. I will not compromise on my pro-life stance and on my pro-Second Amendment stances. I will not compromise on those. I will not compromise on allowing children to have tampons inside of bathrooms, you know, kindergarten through 4th grade. I will not compromise on boys being in girls' sports. Those are things I will not compromise on. But on the other aspects of things, education, money in your pocket, and safety, I think we can all agree upon those things. And I believe we can get a lot of crossover support on that as well. You know, and just like I believe our infrastructure to be fixed up, I have no problem talking to, you know, those in charge of making sure that we are having good state jobs or private sector jobs, as long as we're getting good roads, you know, and we're getting good water and we're getting, you know, that type of stuff there. But those are the things I really focus on.
I think in regards to the state road program too, I think there's a lot of corruption there. The same guys, the same companies have been building these roads forever. It's the same politicians are funding them. And we're in a cycle now where it's going to be hard to break that, right? Because there's just a lot of corruption there.
Well, yeah, there is, but at the end of the day, look, we're out of money. I mean, you know, I'm saying, like when it comes down to, you know, the bad thing is about socialism when you run out of everybody else's money, and we're to the point now to where it's like, you know, the Democrats are going to have to give somewhere. They're going to have to start giving because they're saying, look, there's no more money to take. Who else are you going to take from now? Because we're losing a lot of our big businesses. We're losing a lot of our tax dollars, but you still want these pet projects. So we're going to have to bid these things out. And I believe private contractors, I believe guys like Local 649, Local 150, I believe these guys can do a hell of a good job on building out roads and building up bridges. I believe they know what they're doing. You know, they bring in great product. They get the job done. They stay within budget. And it's not, you won't see Illinois as being a construction season and a winter season. That's all we have. Construction and winter. Right. And it goes right back to the same roads again, over and over again. And you're not going to see that anymore. I mean, it's going to take time for that to happen, but those are conversations that need to be had and figure out, okay, who's the players here and what's really going on? I mean, I drive a truck for a living. I'm up and down these highways and byways every single day. I know what it's like out here. I see what you guys are doing. You know, we've got 30 guys standing around doing that. You know, it's really out of control, and we can address those issues. No company can run that way. My company would fire you. You know what I'm saying? It would never happen. Yeah.
When you say these things, and I agree with you, right? But when you say these things, what's the typical reaction you're getting from people you know in the unions?
Well, I'll tell you what, see, since I'm actually a union guy, so I mean, I was a local 710 Teamster, you know, when I worked for UPS. And so I've had conversations with them. They say, hey, send me up your information. The executive committee will look at this thing. I mean, they're actually open to me because, again, it comes down to just common sense. They know I'm never against a union. I'm not against the union at all. I'm against taxpayer funded unions getting involved with politics. I don't support the top brass determining giving all this money to Democrat politicians to continue pushing a failed agenda. That's what I don't support. But like the private sector unions, these guys, I mean, they're just like they're just like myself. They're just every day sick and tired of going to work and Uncle Sam showing up to get his cut of the money, even though he didn't come and work beside you, but he's still going to be there and grabbing his cash, and JB Pritzker's going to spend it for you. And that's not right. They're fed up with that. And everybody's like, hey, it can't get any worse. And it can't be any worse than what we're already dealing with. And most of the union guys, they're pretty much, they're like conservative Democrats, right? I mean, they vote Democrat because they're worried about their job, but they know they have a guy who is a union guy, but also loves the fact that I'm a Second Amendment guy. I love to hunt, fish, these are the things I like to do. They also agree with that. I like big trucks. I like diesel. They also like that kind of stuff, right? I mean, they just don't want to see somebody who's against against the worker. They're not somebody who's not going to be for organized labor. I support organized labor. I have no problem with that. A lot of companies, they do a great job. They don't need to organize labor. A lot of companies this day and age in Illinois, there's several of them here that are doing a wonderful job treating their employees right. So you're not seeing the unions. The unions are getting weaker now because, it is what it is. But, these heavy equipment operators and, stuff like that, they're going to be around a long time. And I'll protect her. I'll do all I can to work with them and make sure they get, good paying jobs and treated fairly.
Hypothetical here. You step in an elevator, door closes, you look to your left, and JB Pritzker sitting there, just looking at you. What are you going to say to him? If you got 30 seconds to say whatever you want, what are you going to say to him?
I'm going to say, JB, you really failed the state of Illinois. I'm very disappointed in the actions that you took. You came from a spoon-fed family to where you had everything always handed to you. You didn't take the opportunity to be able to come out here and see us as people. You yourself know the even when it comes down to you, sir, being a Jew, and you do not stand beside your own people. And the discrimination, the way that you're treating people today and allowing this disrespect and discrimination to happen to people, you should be ashamed of yourself, because he has absolutely stood beside every failed policy, everything that's ever happened in our state. He had the opportunity to be able to go to Florida and Wisconsin. He locked us all down. I wasn't able to go to church with my family. I wasn't able to go out to eat anywhere. I mean, it was a very sad time. My daughter didn't have an opportunity to have a graduate from high school. She had to sit at the house. These are all the things we experienced. I watched mental health break down in children because of the lockdown crisis. And this is all your fault, JB Pritzker, because you could have opened the state up like everybody else did, and we wouldn't be in the situation that we're currently in. You're allowing the illegals to come in here. You're allowing them to have free places to stay, free healthcare, free phones. In the meantime, we're out here working 60, 70 hours a week trying to pay for what you want. And it's not fair. And that's what I mean. I'm just so frustrated with him because he has never taken the opportunity to really listen to us, ever.
Well, he's never had to. I mean, like you said, he's been born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's got billions of dollars just because he was born, right? So it's kind of hard to identify with someone who has to work for a living.
Yes.
When you really never have, and well, he never has. You have.
Yes, exactly. Every week I'm still working 65 hours a week, every single week. I mean, they only let me work 70 because after 70 you got to take 34 hours off and you go back to work again. So but it's just it's just disappointing. I mean, I'm tired of the fight. I mean, it's like, look, I'm in this thing to make a difference, and I tell everybody, you can't vote for me, George. You can't vote for me, but I can vote for you when I make it to Springfield. So when you see me in all these locations throughout the state of Illinois, I go everywhere. And the reason why, I'm having a fundraiser this week in Peoria. Why are you going to Peoria? Well, because people want me in Peoria. They can't vote for me, but I can vote for them. And they're looking for common sense solutions. They're looking for somebody who's actually going to be one of them and listen to them, have a seat at the table. And that's what's happening here. And I feel comfortable and confident with what we're seeing. I think the time is right, and people are concerned, oh, you're in the super minority, you can't get anything done. This is where we as a party and we as a people are failing, because you're putting bad candidates out there to run because you're looking at checkbooks rather than quality. And that's if you find a rich person who's able to run and fund their campaign and start writing checks to all these other politicians and pad in the pockets of everybody, oh, that's our candidate right there. But they have no personality. They have no experiences. You don't talk like we do. And so if they did a better job on recruitment, we have 78 seats up for election this cycle here. That we could be flipping some serious seats in the House to where we could, if we can win 20 of those, if we could take 20 of those seats and making common sense on the House side, what a difference we would have. Has the party been recruiting anybody like that? No. I don't know. I'm saying? It's right.
No. The answer's no on that.
Yes.
The Illinois GOP has been, I don't even know if they know how to do this anymore, to be honest. Yes. It's all special interests and handouts, right?
Yes.
I hit something on the website. about what they need to do to rebuild it. And you got to start their grassroots. You got to get out there. You got to pick people like you that want to make a difference and have common sense.
Yes.
And build them up from those grassroots. You can't just, I mean, I'm going to use Jim Overweiss as an example. This guy ran for everything in the state of Illinois, lost every race before he became a state. I think he finally went up a state rep or a state senator or something. I don't even know what the point of that was. He did a lousy job representing his district. He did a lousy job running his dairy and went out of business. It was just all an ego play for that guy, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of people like that. And there's a lot of people that they kind of stare into the positions because they know they're going to vote the way they want them to. That's what an old friend of mine, Dan Proft, he's a radio guy up here in Chicago, called the bipartisan combine, right?
Yes, I love Dan.
It's just
great
government churning out more garbage to raise your taxes and steal your money. And there's no one standing up and saying this is wrong.
And they're guaranteed a job.
We're not cultivating that type of person. We're cultivating the wrong kind of person.
Correct. Yes.
So we're at time now here so let me get one more thing from you. What do you have to say to your future constituents or your hopeful constituents here? If you've got time now here to say whatever you want to them to get them to think about what they're doing and put some thought into your campaign and hopefully come out and help go door to door and everything for you. So what's your elevator pitch to get those people on board your campaign?
Well, guys, this is the opportunity for us to be able to flip a seat that's actually winnable. You have the true opportunity here to do the same thing that Abraham Lincoln did when he ran for president. You go over to your neighbor's house, talk to 10 of your friends. That's the start of a precinct committee meeting. If you're willing to go and just talk to 10 of your friends and just tell them about why it is important to get out here and vote for this election cycle, you have the chance now. This is the chance to get a true blue collar, common sense conservative down there to represent your values and when you make this investment in my campaign, you're not looking at this isn't a donation or a charity. This is an investment in the future of you, your children's future, your grandchildren's future. You believe in me. You're guaranteed an opportunity to have a seat back at the table, which is something that we have not had for a very long time. Right. And it's so simple for us to be able to flip this seat. This seat is prime for the taking. There has not been an opportunity for a very long time where you've seen a candidate like myself come forward here to where I bring the values of the blue collar, the union, the common sense. These are things that the people are looking for in the 36th district. This is what I truly represent. It's so easy. Just go talk to your neighbors. If you can just find 10 of your friends to, put a sign up, give you $10 or $100, that's going to go a long way because I'm not going to have the great, big, huge donor base that what these other career politicians have. And this is going to be a full grassroots movement. And so I'm counting on you. This is your chance to say, hey, I'm ready for change. I'm going to work just as hard as you're going to work. You won't see me sitting down taking a break. I'll be out here working right beside you the whole entire time. But I'm going to need all you guys because I won't be able to flood the media. I won't be able to put out all these mailers. I'm not going to spend money like that. I'm not buying high dollar consultants to run a cookie cutter campaign. This is Patrick Harlan. I have 10 years experience doing this. I had the opportunity in Knox County. I started off running for Congress in 2016 against Sherry Bustos. My son and I ran that campaign by ourselves. We raised $14,000. I didn't know what I was doing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we drove 52,000 miles. We knocked on 14,000 doors. I raised $14,000, all I had. And I was told from the consultants, you'll never make it on the ballot. I made it on the ballot. They said, you'll never make it past the primary. I won 76% in the primary. They said, you'll never get 30% in the general election. I got 41% in the general election. As a no-name truck driver in 2016 with no political experience, I came back to Knox County. At that point, I ran for county board and I won. I was able to get the sheriff elected here as a Republican, a coroner, a Republican, state's attorney, a Republican. We've got all of our county board. The county board was a 10-5 Democrat majority. Now it's a 9-6 Republican majority. We've got our city council and our school board has been flipped over. These are the campaigns I've been involved in. I know how to win. I know we can do this. I wouldn't be out here wasting your time if this was not a winnable district because I have no purpose in doing this. I've already won in life. My wife is beautiful with 27 years of marriage, sitting here at the house, raising our kids. My son's an attorney and both my daughters in education. I have a great life. I'm doing this because we can win this seat. I can win this seat with you.